Hello, beautiful ladies. Welcome to another Waman hour with only one Waman. And I'm going to get right into it because I'm hoping that people will be able to watch this just as a video instead of my normal live stream content. And today I have just a short sort of thought for you that's been going around my brain for a while. And I'm hoping that you'll find it interesting. But I've been interested in this idea of what I called in the title of this video, the intellectual class that it's kind of spread across the whole world, and it's similar to what I've seen described in the book called the weirdest people on earth. Weird standing for, I can't even remember what, white educated is it, and a bunch of other things. It's basically an acronym for the educated intellectual class of people that exists all over the world. And this class of people have more in common with each other regarding their habits, their beliefs, their sort of family structures. They have more in common with each other than they do with the underclass in their own countries, of their own race, and in their own communities. There's As the internet has made communication of ideas and philosophies, and through media, through entertainment, through fiction, even the class of intellectuals, the people who are primarily occupied with creating thoughts, creating ideas, they are able to spread these ideas to other countries extremely quickly. And it's actually much easier for someone in England, someone like me, to transmit ideas and conversation, to have a story or narrative. I can transmit that to someone in another country, and I'm probably doing it right now, much easier than I can communicate this same idea to someone who's not on my intellectual level. And that's going to sound really really self-important and narcissistic, but there's if you go to the more sort of common person, if you go to a factory worker in China, they're really not going to be interested in listening to uh, NPR, This American Life. They're not going to be interested in listening to the podcasts that the factory manager's wife loves to listen to. I've been to other countries. I did a research project in Hong Kong, and the academics there who I worked with were they basically have completely westernized values. Like, because they speak English fairly well, they understand English very well, they can consume all the media that I can consume here in England, and they have basically indistinguishable beliefs. Obviously there are differences, but it's it's kind of, I don't know, it's interesting to think about. It's been especially effective from America. A lot of the entertainment that we consume is from California, of course, from Hollywood. Makes a lot of movies, and the ideas that make these movies are consumable to a mass audience. And we hear about it in the media when such and such a movie has been censored in various places, and we think that's extremely weird that a Chinese audience would find this line or this plot point offensive. But it really should be more weird to us to think that most movies, and most of the entire movie, was completely fine and enjoyable to a Chinese audience. But actually, you just have to change the language, and basically all of the values, all of the jokes, the story is still compelling, the characters are still likable in a completely different country. But we find that normal now because we live in this globalized society. It's kind of similar to what happened a few hundred years ago when France was the sort of ruler of like intellectual society, especially in England, where a lot of the elites in the country, that the wealthiest people, would speak French, and they would read books written in French for people all over the world. That it didn't happen nearly as quickly, But there's a reason that a lingua franca is called it's called a lingua franca, not a English language, which is the default lingua franca of modern age, ironically. But the idea is that the elites in those days who were reading books by I think, well, Rousseau sounds like he was French. I think he must have been Rousseau, or who else am I thinking of? The intellectuals at the time were writing in French, and they could that their books were accessible only to other people, only elites internationally who could speak French. And I think it's important to understand that the political class in these foreign countries all belong to this intellectual class. They are all consuming the same ideas from overseas, usually from America or from England, using the English language as a vehicle, using the internet, especially. They all read the English news, not literally all, but reading, watching Fox or CNN, reading articles from BBC and even the Guardian. I've seen people reading that abroad in other countries, and that's the politicians. The politicians and the rest of the elite class of these foreign countries have more intellectually in common with elite Americans than they do with their own people who they're ruling. And I think to a certain extent that is always going to be the case. But what the globalization of information and the internet and the prevalence of English as a language has helped to do is to make that homogenous, in a sense that the elites everywhere are speaking the same language. And it's easy to think of the homogenization as being completely thorough, but I can't emphasize enough that I don't know, I guess the working majority of the country, the lower 50, 60, 70% of the population are still they're still very different to their elites. They have not, if you told them about the transgender issues and what we're talking about here, they'd probably find it completely baffling. In a lot of other countries, and even in this country, there's a lot of people who just aren't paying attention, aren't reading the news, who go like, "What, a man with a no?" And it's, I think it's easy for what I assume to be the kind of educated people who are interested in ideas who might be watching this kind of channel. It doesn't mean they're smart, by the way. When I say people are educated and intelligent, it doesn't mean they have good ideas or that they're like smart people. Like they're predominantly what we might call leftists. They kind of have this. Well, I suppose we can talk another time about what the left and the right is, but this kind of optimistic, atheistic, atomized view of society that we call sort of liberalism. They're all pro-democracy, just for example. Now, I guess that was all I wanted to say briefly. Maybe I'll make a proper video about it at some time. But I just wanted to have a quick one tonight. If you have any questions, any thoughts, do leave them down below. I'll read the super chats, but I do want to get out of here quickly tonight. So from DRT, thanks very much for $10. Sorry to miss you on the PO box. I was watching Aidan Paladin and Spoon on Weekly News on the podcast Broken Crown. Yeah, Broken Crown podcast. I recommend that. It's at the same time as the Wednesday stream. Yeah, I don't do streams every Wednesday. It's just sort of one-off. But I hope to be doing more episodes of the PO box upcoming. I was going to mention that the next episode of Waman Hour is going to be episode 100. If you count this as a Waman Hour, which you probably will. This is episode 99, and I'd like to do something special for Waman Hour. Next week, I won't be here. So it'll be in 2 weeks' time, so I've got plenty of time to prepare something special. But if you have any ideas, do let me know. If any creative people out there want to make an edit or some kind of fan art, it would be a good time to do that now. Otherwise, I guess I'll just leave you with my intro and get out of here. Have a good night, everyone, and have a good weekend.